Welcome, everybody, to our special edition webinar today. As you can see, we have a couple new faces, which is very exciting for us. So be nice that this is their first webinar ever. So, okay. Well, while people are still coming in, I'll just do a quick overview of kind of the how today is going to go. We are going to do a quick introductions on all four of us. After that, we will go through a very brief history of inFlow. Then when people did sign up to register for this, we did have an option for people to submit questions ahead of time. So we will go through kind of the questions that were already submitted. And then at the very end, probably the last 10, 15 minutes, whatever, we will do a live Q&A. So people, if you do have questions for Louis and Stephen, you can put them in the chat here. Nuria will write them down and we can go over them at the end. So yeah. Let's get into the introductions. You have probably, if you've been to any of our webinars before, seen my face before, but my name is Philip. I am on the support team. If you have chatted with us, if you have sent in emails, anything like that, you've probably talked to me at some point. We also have lovely Nuria, who is also on the support team. If you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. So, hi, my name is Nuria. I'm also in the support team, but as Phil mentioned, I'm not in Toronto. I'm in Lisbon, Portugal, and I'm part of the Portuguese team along with my colleague Ilian, who was on chat. He's right in front of me. But yeah, I'm not a webinar veteran. I occasionally come here, and I'm mostly on chats during the webinar, and I'm also answering your questions with tickets and chats. So that's it. Moving on.
So she is helping us out today, which is fantastic. So, to finish out our introductions, we have two very special people here, the co-founders of inFlow. So, Stephen, if you want to start off with introducing yourself.
Hey, I'm Stephen. Yeah, a webinar newbie here. First time getting to join this. I'm a bit of a nerd, so usually everyone likes to keep my face away from the camera. But yeah, I'm one of the two founders, so that means Louis and I were kind of the two people who wrote version 1. What is it, 15, 16 years ago? And these days, I'm kind of in charge of the product side of the organization. So if you have, I'm sure many of you have given feedback that I've read. I may not have associated your name with it, but yeah, the problems that you have with the software, blame me.
Well, at least for the original ones. I mean, now we've got more people that we can share the blame, right? But yeah, no. And the other half, we have Louis here, which is fantastic. So if you want to introduce yourself, Louis.
Hey everyone, I'm Louis, one of the other co-founder along with Stephen. It feels like a dream now because me and Stephen goes back like 20 years ago, and when we started, we were just like two guys coding away in our parents' basement. So yeah, but I guess nowadays I stream more on the business side of things. But previously, Stephen and I worked together on the software. I also worked on version 1, version 2 of the software, the design of it. But nowadays, probably, Phil, Nuria, and Stephen will be much capable at answering more technical questions than I do. So, but hello.
Cool. Well, thank you both very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this webinar with us. We thought it would be a really cool idea just to kind of let everyone see the kind of some more of the faces behind the product and everything, and again get to any questions that people may have. I mean, things are always changing here with inFlow, so yeah, it just sounds like it would be a really cool thing to do. If you guys want to give us just kind of a really quick brief history of inFlow, I know you kind of already alluded to how long it's been around.
Yeah, so I guess I'll continue on the story. Maybe it'll be more fun, Phil, to show some pictures. Sure. So we go back all the way back, as I said, nearly 20 years ago. That was me with more hair, without the glasses, and that's Stephen, and he looks exactly the same. And for those who are curious, the lady in the middle is my wife. I've known her since high school, and she's still my wife, FYI, if anyone cares. The three of us kind of like started Archon, the company which produced inFlow, the product. And the other two pictures are basically, Stephen, you want to tell everyone what are those two pictures of?
Yeah, that's the parents' basement. So, as Louis talked about earlier, I think that's the Canadian equivalent of the Silicon Valley garage. We can't go outside in the Canadian winter, so we just go to the basement. That's where we go and get our code done.
Yeah, and as you can see, the monitor are still like the two type of monitor. The reason why we show the couch on the other side is because I literally slept on that couch. So we wake up, we code, and then I go back to sleep on that couch. Stephen go back to his bedroom, and that's how the company started. It's just two guys think of an idea of how can we help small businesses with their inventory problem. Previously, when we were in school, we took on like two to three mid-size supply chain management system contract. So we built customized supply chain management system for 2 or 3 of those mid-sized companies, and we look at the market and think, hey, we think something is missing in the market, because back then you only have like the big system like SAP, which you need to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for, or people are using spreadsheet. So there's like nothing in the middle. So we thought it might be a good opportunity to take our learnings from those 3 companies that we worked with and start producing our own product, which is inFlow. And that's where we are today.
We kind of did the opposite of what the kind of typical startup business advice is these days. I don't know but you guys, like how you guys started your companies or how you got started in them. But generally you hear about lean startup, you hear like test something as quickly as you can, get it out there. And we absolutely did not do that. We spent about 2 years just writing code, getting version 1 out there, and then we put it out in the world, and we had no idea how it was going to do. Of course, we had our convictions, our beliefs that there was something valuable there. But yeah, that was a little crazy.
Yeah, I think like nowadays I won't advise young people to do that, because during those 2 years, like we basically had no income and we only had a dream. And I think the reason why we even release is because it reaches to a point where it is so painful that, okay, let's just release the product, because it's at that point it was really good already, right?
Yeah.
And we're surprised by the feedback and how people receive it.
Well, it's really cool. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where nothing's ever going to be perfect, or like even now, I'm sure that we're always saying like, oh, I wish we could just have this one extra thing, or anything like that. So, so yeah, no, thank you for sharing that story. That's really cool. It's really interesting to hear kind of how everything started. So yeah, so again, just reiterating, if you do have any questions or anything like that, definitely you can put them in the chat. This webinar, we're not doing like how-tos or like actual troubleshooting of the system or anything. So if you have any questions like that, like how do I make a credit or how do I do a sales order or something like that, then definitely reach out to us at support@inflowinventory.com. I'll be answering tickets and stuff later today, so who knows, I may be able to get back to you. Otherwise, yeah, any questions you have for Louis or Stephen, you can definitely put them in the chat. And I see Nuria already posted in our email address there in the chat too. So definitely reach out with any of those other questions. So yeah, so now we will get on to the submitted questions that when people were registering, they had already kind of actually put in there. So the first one we had actually kind of revolves around manufacturing. So I'm going to kind of summarize these because some people did write in some very long things, and they kind of got a little specific. So kind of on a higher level, people are asking kind of questions about like manufacturing facilities. Will we have things like MRP modules or add-ons available? I guess, yeah, like Stephen, what can you tell us about kind of like manufacturing side of things and how you see inFlow with that?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. So I think, as most of you will know, we've got some manufacturing bunch of features there, and currently they're mostly restricted to just the Windows app. And we are actually currently right now working hard on bringing that into the web app, where I think most people are more comfortable these days, and also particularly users who are on Macs who need access to that. It's not an option today, but we are working really hard on that. Like just before this webinar, I was writing some code, working in that direction. So yeah, that's kind of the big thing coming. Like manufacturing is a big focus for us in terms of kind of our current efforts and our future plans. So yeah, I guess one particular thing I can mention that is coming up. We are also bringing in support for operation tracking, or sometimes called routing. So this is instead of just saying this is what we assembled out of these parts, you can now also, or sorry, you will soon also be able to track the progress of that manufacturing. So you have completed the assembly, maybe you need to do some welding and then some painting. So some of those steps, and you'll be able to track that right in the system along with detailed costing.
Awesome. That sounds like a really good feature. And again, that will, when that launches, that will all be available in the web app. So everyone will be able to use it, whether Mac, Windows, Linux, any of that kind of stuff. So that's fantastic. Thank you very much for answering that. Yeah, so I know this one's kind of a tougher question, and I'm sorry, Lou, we're going to throw you under the bus here. But we had a couple people write in asking about why we were planning on discontinuing our on-premise edition of inFlow. That there are some people kind of in the world that I guess like internet is a little more difficult or slower in comparison to other areas and stuff like that. And so I guess kind of why are we focusing on inFlow Cloud and we're sunsetting the on-premise version?
Yeah, so thanks, Phil, for the question. And just like how I mentioned at the start, me and Stephen started with on-premise, right? We coded it. We're the one who, designed it and built it. So on-premise has always been close to our heart. So I just want to say thank you for everyone who have been using on-premise all these years, and thank you for your support. We never thought that it would be as popular as it is right now, and it is, because of every one of you guys that has helped us. But that being said, a few years ago, we already know that the world is kind of shifting. For example, now, if you talk about 20 years ago, iPhone wasn't even out yet, right? But nowadays, everyone have their mobile phone. You're using your web app. You might be using your iPad. So just having inFlow on a Windows desktop setting won't be enough. So 5 years ago, we decided to move our development focus to be shifting towards the cloud. And that enables us to do things like having the mobile app, having the web app, having inFlow to be accessible on the iPad and all these other devices that we support nowadays. So that said, with the on-premise, there are some core components that we do use for the on-premise software that is also going to be discontinuing support by Microsoft. For example, like Windows 10, next year in 2024, Microsoft will be dropping support for Windows 10. Microsoft will also be dropping support for some of the core components like the SQL Server, the backend database that we have been using. So it will be very difficult for us as a company to continue to support it while maintaining development on the cloud product. So even though it is a very difficult decision, but we decided to shift our focus towards cloud and make the difficult choice of sunsetting on-premise. But with that said, you can still set up multiple servers if needed to prepare for the hardware downtime. So reach out to our support team as well on some how-tos, keep your on-premise running after the sunsetting dates.
Yeah, for sure. There's the offline access certificates and everything that we can definitely help you set up and everything so that you can continue using it sometime after as well too. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I know that's definitely a tough question, and as you said, kind of like your guys' baby is the original, and everything you guys probably did the most code and stuff like that. I know. Whenever I have difficulties with it, I know reaching out to Stephen is somebody who can usually point me in the right direction as to what to look at for where things may be going wrong with that. So thank you very much, Lou.
I did see a question in the chat from Robin. I've been an on-premise member for many years, concerned about not understanding how to convert to the cloud. Thanks for the question, Robin. Yeah, honestly, we try to make conversion from on-premise to cloud as easy as possible. Reach out to support, yeah, or sales. We'll have people who'll be able to help you. And there's a few things that have changed, but for the most part, 90% of the system is going to be kind of the way that more or less you can just continue using it as if it's on-premise. It's just kind of magically now into the cloud. So the Windows app, you know, 90% of it looks the same as on-premise. There's lots of improvements in there, new functions that, if initially it kind of is coming all at once and it feels overwhelming, you can adopt some of that gradually, or you don't even need to adopt it at all. If you're just happy with how it is, yeah, you can use it 90% the same. But yeah, our sales and support teams can kind of walk you through exactly the process and any hiccups that you run into. But it should be pretty seamless. You can upload your data, everything transfers over quite smoothly.
And so on chat, I see that so mentioned the on-premise is also our baby, and our business will suffer if it is no longer available. I totally feel you, because as Phil mentioned, it is also our baby. Like, we coded it, we designed it. I even remember like the little icons that are there on the earlier versions. I actually used Photoshop to draw it. So we have as much emotional attachment as all of you. But that said, if you need to if you need to learn about how can you adopt and change from the on-premise version to the cloud version, our team will be available to help you. And also, I just want to let people know that it is not being discontinued today, so you still have time to make the change.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, we can kind of touch on we at inFlow are kind of always changing too, obviously to your guys' direction and everything. But with like inFlow Cloud, you can sign up for a 14-day free trial. You can actually we did try and make things as easy as possible. You can take one of your on-premise backups. You can upload it straight to inFlow Cloud. That'll bring all your data there right away, so you can kind of just continue working like you were normally. In the past, just a couple months, actually, we also released like customer success managers for different inFlow Cloud accounts and everything as well too. And that's kind of more like your dedicated person that once you are an inFlow Cloud customer, you can reach out to them, you can book time, they can actually speak with you and work, like learn your workflow and everything like that, and kind of go through some of those things like training and different stuff like that with you as well. And so if you look at our pricing page, like a certain amount of hours and stuff are included in each of the different packages and stuff like that. So that is also like another fantastic resource that's available to you as well too. So while it may be scary making the transition, we are here to try and help make it as easy and seamless as possible, kind of thing. And who knows, you may find we have added so many new features to inFlow Cloud, like different integrations, different way of reordering and stuff like that. And again, these new manufacturing things will be coming soon. Or sorry, not soon. I can't say soon. I don't know when it'll come in the near future. So I mean, those are all things that that you can look forward to, and again, we can kind of help out with. So.
I just want to clarify. So there's the date. When is the sunset of on-premise? So next summer, July 31st, 2024, is the date that we are going to kind of stop. Like that's when we'll stop allowing new activations of on-premise. If you already have it set up and working on your servers, it can continue working. There is one step you'll need to take to do that. So check with our support team about the offline access. And again, you can reach out to our support team. Like, our goal here is not to cut anyone off. If you've bought it and you're using it, we want to allow you to continue doing that. Of course, like, we announced about 5 years ago that we're shifting away the focus, and then there's still over a year from now until that's going to be happening, and you will be able to continue using it at that point if you have the offline access set up. So we want to do right by you. But yeah, we are a small company. There's only so many resources we can allocate towards maintaining sort of the old stuff while still being able to build up the new stuff and make it better and stronger.
Yeah. So as I just want to, double down what Stephen mentioned about more than 12 months. So it's next year in July, so you have still more than 12 months. for any changes you might want to make. And you know, and a large part is also, like as I mentioned, how Microsoft is dropping support for SQL Server, the backend database. They are dropping support for Windows 10 next year. So a lot of the decisions also hinges on that also. But I just want to reiterate that we want to thank you for all the support all these years. And our team will be available to help you with the transition.
For sure. That's what we're here for. So yeah, definitely reach on out. Okay, let's move on to the next question because we're kind of already doing live Q&A and stuff. Which thank you guys both for see, they're reading the chat, they're jumping in, they're super eager to answer your questions already. So we'll go to a little bit lighter of a question on here. Stephen, some people were asking us a little bit about like kind of upcoming customization or customization in the system. Like I know one person was asking if we could provide an option to create reports from scratch. What do you think we could talk about?
Okay, yeah, great question. Thank you. So customization, it is an area that we're kind of gradually looking into, and that's one area of focus that we're looking to expand out. Today, you know, we've got the API where you can call and edit things in there, and there's also the Zapier. Is that how you pronounce it? I always get that mixed up. Zapier.
I've heard it both ways. So.
Zapier.
But yeah, so that's a tool that we also integrate with that lets you sort of connect inFlow with many other pieces of software, like hundreds of different types. So those are some of the most powerful tools we have today. Specifically, the question about doing reports from scratch. If I'm not sure if this if this comes from like an on-premise background, but we're not able to offer direct SQL access to kind of the databases in the cloud. Some things have changed there. There's some security concerns. But something that we have been working on, actually Phil and I have been working on, like behind the scenes, you know, when Phil's not in front of the cameras, is support for custom reports, which can be written by our employees, by Archon staff, actually probably Phil specifically. And once that's been set up, so you can work with Phil or whoever to get the report set up the way that you like, and then it'll just show up as a report right in the web app that you can access. You can run it anytime. You can export it to CSV. So if there's a particular, you know, type of data that you need, and you know it's in inFlow, but it's not exposed the way that you need it to be in the reports, we'll not quite ready yet. But reach out, talk to Phil. Maybe he'll set up a waiting list.
Yeah, for sure. I know we got a couple people waiting for it already. So yeah, and I think we're hoping very soon. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. That's really good insight. So yeah, I think another one here for you, Stephen. We had a few people kind of asking about the smart scanner and kind of, I guess, like performance with it all around. I know we're kind of on our third iteration of it already. Anything you could speak to on that?
Okay. Yeah, so we sort of see, at least I see the smart scanner as that's kind of like the flagship way of using inFlow. We're looking at a solution where it makes sense in terms of like digitally the data that you're entering into the system, but also it like physically makes sense as you're going around the warehouse and as you're scanning with the barcode. You know, some other systems will have you have a smartphone in one hand and you have a separate scanner in another hand. And compared to having a single device that has it all integrated, it just doesn't make sense, right? Like you need one hand at least to carry the inventory. So yeah, we are aware certainly that the performance of the smart scanner in some cases is not where we would like it to be. So we actually have some of our development team working really hard on that. So I hope we're going to have some specifically performance improvements to share soon. In terms of the features as well, that's something that we're constantly working on. We are working on the manufacturing side on the web first. And then one of the biggest requests has been for the ability to do stock counts from the mobile app. So again, that's something that's high up on our radar. We are working on kind of the web version of the of the physical count capability right now, and then shortly after that will come the mobile version of that. So we also, of course, are heavily reliant on feedback from the inFlow community. So maybe I'll talk more about that later, but let us know what you need, like, and we weigh that with how we prioritize.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, thank you. That's awesome, and also I think it's good to point out too the smart scanner that we sell and everything. Inflowshop.com. You can take a look at it. But we also it's using the same mobile app that you can download for free on your Android or iOS device. So all those kinds of like extra things that are coming to that will also be coming to regular smartphones and stuff like that as well. That you'll be able to use, and you can always kind of poke around with the app and see how that works, and if you think then that the hardware would be a good fit for you, because it just makes things faster being able to scan right on there, not have to use like the camera and stuff like that. So yeah, no, that's really great. Thank you very much. So yeah, a little bit, Louis. I don't know if you could talk about anything maybe in terms of future plans for inFlow. I know some. Stephen was saying we obviously get a lot of feature requests. Like I know one that pops up a lot is things like batch tracking, and we do also have a roadmap that we publish. Publicly available kind of thing, and so I guess anything that we could talk to you about that.
Yeah, so I guess previously, like Stephen alluded to some of the things that we're working on, for example, manufacturing. That's one area that we're currently focusing on. And then also increasing the capability with the mobile app. For example, Stephen also mentioned count sheet, being able to count on the device in your warehouse or wherever you are, right? So our investment will be more gears towards those two areas, but at the same time, inside we have what we call a web parity. For those who have been with us during the on-premise day, you know how powerful our Windows desktop app is, right? It has a lot of features, even the manufacturing feature, for example, bill of materials and work order, those are currently on the Windows desktop app, but it's not on the web app right now. So we want to kind of push up the capability of our web app and mobile app, at the same time doing it in a way that's modern to how people use web app and mobile app nowadays. So instead of like directly copying the interface that we have for our desktop app, we want to design it in a way that's modern, that's even easier to use, and have some new functionality that's previously not available. For example, as Stephen mentioned, routing for manufacturing. So that's our current focus, is to add in those new functions and new capabilities. And obviously, as Stephen mentioned, a lot of those are based on the feedback that you give, that you here with us in the inFlow community give. And just so you know, whenever you talk to our support team or any one of our team member about things that you think will be good or things that you think will be improved on, those do get logged into our centralized system. And Stephen and I also go through all of the feedback that you guys have submitted. And we categorize them. We say, we try to see how many people asked for them, how can we make it work, how can we make it better. So we kind of take all of your feedback to heart, and we have a process on what do we choose to do to make things even better for the future. But as Stephen mentioned, as I mentioned right now, manufacturing, mobile count sheet, and web parity are some of the things that are on our mind right now.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. And yeah, I remember when I first started at inFlow, so that was about 5 years ago now, kind of thing too. How one of the big things that in the training they were telling us is that any feedback we get from the customers, make sure we have kind of a couple places that we log it in and everything, but we have like an internal chat system that we share throughout the entire company, so we can all reach each other easily, and we post the feedback there where everyone in the company can see, and that both you, Louis, and Stephen will personally look at every single piece of feedback in there, and we have like a little emoji system and stuff that you can kind of mark off that you've read it and stuff. So hopefully everyone understands that yes, your feedback and everything. These two guys actually do look at it every single day, kind of thing. And I mean, that channel is busy. Like every time I step away, I come back, it's got a whole ton more things. So yeah, it's really cool just to know that you guys are kind of keeping an eye on all that stuff. So thank you very much.
Yeah, when there's things that that you want to see in the software and it's not there yet, it is certainly not because we're not listening. It's just, we're a small team, and I think it's true of every software company that there's more things that you want to do than you can do at least right now. So we try to prioritize kind of what is going to make the biggest impact for the largest part of the community, and we work on that. I think we get it. I don't think we get it perfectly, but I think we make some pretty good choices overall. And yeah, please be patient with us. We are working on a lot of different things, as you've heard already. And please keep that feedback coming so that you keep pointing us in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. And I know I've said it in multiple webinars here, kind of thing, but it's the age-old saying, squeaky wheel gets the oil. So more people that mention certain things or certain features, whatever, then it helps us prioritize and everything like that. So yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, another one I know we had some people asking about, Stephen, you can probably talk to this, is just that we have so many people that are using so many different softwares with inFlow. As much as inFlow can do, it obviously can't do everything. Like, it's not meant to be like an accounting software. While it can do a lot of the functions of it and stuff, we're not built to be something like that or whatever. So we have a lot of people always asking, I use some other software and I want inFlow to connect to it. So what can you tell us about that?
So yeah, this is a great question. It's also a tough question. I mean, I think the answer in a nutshell is really kind of, again, down to sort of prioritization, right? Like, there's ideally we would connect to everything, and some of the efforts we've done via API, Zapier, and Cart Rover. What's the name of that again? Extensive Integration Manager, I believe. Like, we try to set it up so that we can integrate with most of the kind of core systems that you guys need. But of course, there's going to be gaps, and it is a trade-off for us in terms of like wherever we're kind of putting the development resources. There's always that opportunity cost of that means we're not putting it in 50 other places that we want to be putting them. So yeah, this is something that we certainly sort of quantitatively look at. Like, we look at the number of requests, we look at the usage of the existing integrations in terms of like justifying, how much does this need to be built out, and also just sort of like thinking about like what level of the integration needs to be done there. Also, a lot of the times we are constrained by some quirks of how the different systems work. Yeah, like, I won't get into the details too much, but each system, including inFlow, has its own quirks. And when you try to put them together, sometimes it might just become, something that's really not that feasible, or you have to sort of climb a mountain to do it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and again, I like the way you're kind of talking about how we do try and use some different softwares, I guess, that allow us to connect to even more, like a Cart Rover or Extensive now. EasyPost is another thing that comes to mind, where you can connect lots of different shipping carriers to an EasyPost account, and then that way you can make labels and stuff that way from it, rather than being kind of like tied to just specific systems or anything like that. So but yeah, and another great place that, again, customers' feedback helps us out. So again, anytime, send in support.
And I guess Sean Wright on the chat asked, would you potentially create customer survey to gauge interest in setting priority status? I guess there's a good kind of like leeway on how do we prioritize what should be done. So obviously, like, your input and how many people kind of wants it is one of the main big gauge on whether we should do something or not, right? But there are a lot of other factors. For example, how complex, like technically complex, a certain thing is. For example, if there's an item that people request for that, that is not that many people, but it's super easy for us to do. Like we can just do it in one day. Then probably we should do those first because the investment is relatively small. But let's say there is something that a lot of people ask for, but at the same time, how important it is, right? Because sometimes you have some items that a lot of people ask for, but they might not be as critical to their business function as some other item. At the same time, the technical complexity might be very high. Then we might want to work on things that are more important in terms of other people, you folks like business process first, rather than something that a lot of people want, but it's not like a must. And then also there are some degree of whether that is kind of like where the world is going, right? Because if you think back 5 years ago when we talk about the on-premise, if we keep investing on adding features to the on-premise version of the software, then we will never see the mobile app that we have today, right? We'll never see a web app that we have today. So in some ways, it's like a combination of all these factors, like how many people wants it, how complex it is, how important, like how business critical it is, and whether it kind of like fits the future of where the world is going, right? So it's a combination of all these factors. So there's no like one simple answer. Like we can't just pick the top feature where the most people ask for and then just do that one every quarter. So
Sure. Thank you very much. That's really awesome to hear. So yeah, here a little bit of a lighter question kind of thing. But yeah, I think this is kind of a really interesting question that I saw come in, because I don't think a lot of people, again, like this is the first time that maybe a lot of people are meeting you, Stephen and Louis. I'm not sure if a lot of people know kind of how big the company is or kind of what our culture or anything is like. So could you talk about that a little bit? I guess this would be either of you.
I guess like we have the honor of like serving a large inFlow community of users. Like we have thousands of businesses using us. Like our on-premise version have been installed more than 1 million times over the past like 10, 15 years. So we're very fortunate that we have a big community that supports us. But at the same time, like in terms of the total headcount, like our company is not Google or Amazon or Apple, that sort of big companies. We have around 50 to 60 people, and it's just folks, working hard and, trying to produce the best work. But one thing I do want to, like a fun fact for everyone, by the time WhatsApp, was sold to Facebook, anyone want to guess how many total headcount employees do they have? And they have like millions of users during that time, right? They only have a size of around like 50 something people, right? Something. Wow. So it's actually a lot of people don't know that, because with software is, if you're, I guess like if you're in manufacturing settings, like you need a certain amount of people to produce a certain amount of goods. But with software, it really depends on the talent of the people in the team. And I think with our company, we have a really great pool of talent that are working super hard on the product, serving our customers, and even helping us on like doing webinars, like Phil and Nuria. So we have a really great team here with us, and I feel very fortunate to be working with everyone here.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, no, that's great. And again, yeah, I know. I think it's one of those things where, yeah, when so many people are using the software or anything like that, you just imagine it's got to be like so many people working on it, right? Like that. So it's always shocking. Yeah, I had no idea about that WhatsApp kind of thing either. I would have thought it would have been more than that too. So yeah, I think it's kind of good to let people know, I guess, kind of how big of a company we are and stuff like that. Also, we are kind of trying to expand, I guess, who everyone gets to know and everything like that. So we will be having some fun little things coming out on our socials, introducing some more of like the people behind the scenes, like some of our developers and marketing and everything like that over the next few weeks. So if everyone wants to keep an eye on our socials like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, everything like that, then you'll actually probably get to meet a bunch more of the people on the team too. Okay. So yeah, I know you guys kind of pretty much already went over this. Basically, just if you only have anything else really to add. I know some people were asking why doesn't the web app match the Windows app exactly. So I'm not sure if you have any kind of final thoughts on that, because I know web parity is something that you mentioned we're trying to get to right now. So
Yeah, I'll add a little bit. So yeah, we want the web app to do all the things, or at least all the most important things that the Windows app does. And that is kind of like one of our biggest focuses right now. So as I mentioned, manufacturing, count sheets, and some other little things are coming out there. So yeah, we're very aware of that. And one thing that maybe um, I'm not sure how well people are aware of is that as we are porting things over, we're taking the opportunity to not just kind of like copy and paste from one spot to another, but to really take the opportunity to take what we've learned over many years and sort of also do deeper customer research, more thinking, and make it better. So um, yeah, as I mentioned with the manufacturing, we're adding the operation tracking in there. So that's another key piece that we've been working on. You may have seen with some of the previous features as well, like reordering. When we brought that over to the web app, we significantly improved the way that worked. So that, like in short, previously with on-premise, reordering was just for your company as a whole, and with the update, we made it such that you could separately control reordering per location. So that enabled workflows like if you order to a central warehouse and then from that warehouse you distribute it to different retail stores, all that is now seamlessly possible in the new version of reordering. So yeah, we are. Why doesn't the web app match Windows? Well, for now we're sort of like we're working on it, but match is not the goal. We want it to be exceeding the Windows app.
Yeah. And one thing I kind of want to add, because when we started um, talking about the desktop app and the web app, the user interface design of it is very different because of the nature of a desktop app and a web app. Because if you think about the desktop app, every time you pop it up, it's the same size. But on a web app, you can change it to different sizes, and scrolling is a big thing for web app. Versus like a desktop app is more like fixed. So the user interface design is already very different. And I guess back then for the desktop app, we have tabs, right? And that was a fairly, back then, like we were talking about 15 years ago, it was considered as a fresh idea, which is when Firefox and Chrome kind of started. Not a lot of desktop apps have the tabs, but in a web app, you have tabs already built in, so we don't need to build our own tabs. So if you think of like all the kind of like normal day-to-day web application that you use nowadays, like Gmail, any of the apps that people use, even this webinar and chats system, a lot of the user interface design has been modernized, and the old interface of Windows on-premise inFlow, even though it works for its time, but adapting to the new kind of modern way of how web app works and how people expect it to work nowadays, especially like the hamburger manual that we call it. We want to design the interface in a way that people feel at home when using inFlow versus any of the apps out there.
for sure. And no offense to your guys' design style or anything, but the new web app looks phenomenally better than the Windows app ever did.
Yeah.
I particularly, though, I'm fond of I think it was like version 2 or slightly before, where it was super bright colors everywhere.
I always say like I'm not a real designer. I'm a designer want to be. I was just like designing the user interface when we don't have real designers, like when we were just starting.
No, well, that's great. So thank you very much. So I think we have one more. This is the last one from the submitted questions, and I do see we have got quite a few live questions kind of thing. So I guess if you guys want to, if either of you could just kind of go through quickly any challenges, I guess, that you might kind of face either running inFlow or managing the software or things you've learned or anything. I mean, this is kind of more open, just there. Anything that you might want to share with everybody.
You want to go first, Lou?
Yeah. So I guess like probably just like a lot of you here, you guys might be business owners, you guys might be running a warehouse, running a team, and there are always like challenges and problems that you'll face on a daily basis. But at the same time, like I'm very hopeful on where the direction of the product and the community is going. And thank you for all the support that you guys have shown. Even attending this webinar is huge to me, right? um, I guess some of the challenges that are hard, like personally, are like those difficult decisions. For example, sunsetting on-premise, right? Which direction we want to go, um, and how should we invest our time and development effort into what direction should be? Because when you're serving thousands of businesses, right, you can like it's really difficult to fulfill everyone's list. Like if everyone have like their top 100 list, it's really hard to fulfill all 100 people like 100 lists, right? So sometimes if you're doing something, that means also you're not doing something, right? And those are like some of the very difficult challenges and decisions that we have to go through. And emotionally, that's also very difficult for us on an emotional level because we do understand businesses rely on us. They use us on a daily basis. If things don't work or if things are not as great as they want, I feel their pain in some way. Um, so I think those are like some of the challenges that I have. Stephen?
Awesome. Really well said.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, so I should have gone first. Darn it. But yeah, just to add a little bit to that, like, yeah, so making those decisions of like what to build, that's always happy. But the flip side of that is that, yeah, there's always 10 or 20 other things that all make sense that we do want to build. And, many of you have been giving suggestions, right now during this webinar and elsewhere as well. And 90% of the time when I see that, I'm like, yes, I really want to do that. Yes, that totally makes sense. I see why you need that. I want to build that. And it's just, we can only do so much at any given time. So yeah, like another thing to add is like the sort of balancing the needs of different members of the community. There's some people who are called early adopters, right? Like when we release a new feature, they're all over it. They want to get at it even before we release it. They want to beta test it. They want to like try it out and like just put the new things to work for their business as soon as they can. And there's others that are just technology for them is just more like it's a means to an ends, right? Like so some of the voices we're hearing about on premise who like they've got a workflow that works for them and they just want to continue using that. So balancing like changing things and keeping things stable is another tough choice. So that's something we look at with basically every major project that comes out is like how can we extend based on what we have, um, while also keeping it relatively stable for the people who just want to keep things as it is. Because I know, when I get all those emails from other companies like Google and Microsoft, like, hey, we've got this new thing. Most of the time, I'll be honest, I write software for a living, but I don't care. I just want to continue using it the way that I'm using it. So yeah, like both members of that, both sides of that, we want to, that's another challenge we constantly are keeping in mind.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you very much. I know some of those were some pretty tough questions and everything. Nuria has been, I see, answering people's questions like crazy, which is fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm sure this has been a very busy one for her, but she's also compiled a bunch of people's questions. It looks like we've got about 8 or so, I think, that you kind of haven't already touched on or anything, or if we have, maybe you could give a little bit more on. So I'll toss these ones out kind of quickly. And either one of you can kind of just jump in, I guess, with what you think. So the first one's kind of talking a little bit about like variations on inFlow. So they're asking like, are you going to add a drop down for color and sizes anytime soon? Retail companies should be asking for this kind of thing because it would make it so much easier for them. So yeah, they're looking for variations for products. Anything we could say about that?
Yeah, this is certainly one of those where I'm like, yes, that totally makes sense. We absolutely should do that someday. I've even sort of like loosely sketched out how we might tackle that if we were. And as part of that, I realized how complex that would be. It'd be one of those things that touches everything across the system. But yeah, I certainly see the need for that as well. Um, sorry, Patrice, right now there's no current plans to be working on that. That is one of the ones that eats at me when it's like, okay, we're choosing this. And these are one of the 10 or other things that we're not doing as a result.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. The next one was asking a little bit about like two-factor authentication or security. Have you guys thought of an optional double authentication when signing into inFlow?
Yes, certainly thought about that one. This one I think is probably a little bit higher up on the list because in terms of the technical side, it's not as crazy. So this one is probably more demand driven. The more people we hear who really want this, you know, technological security, of course, is very important. That's something we take very seriously. And to the extent to which you guys, the community, care about it more, we're going to prioritize it in that way.
Awesome. So this one actually, I really like this from Donald. He was saying, as a music lover, I've always been interested if the music or lyrics come first when writing a song. In your case, did the issues dictate your focus, or was it the basis interface that came first, or was it adapting your changes to existing ideas?
Yeah, so I guess maybe I'll speak a little bit about the user interface design. I guess especially back in the early days, I guess back when we started, since we already worked on like 2 or 3 of those customized supply chain management system for the other companies, we kind of have an idea what are the functions that the software needs. It needs to do sales order, it needs to do PO, it needs to do reports. And at that time, like we have some idea. There are actually 2 big ideas on the interface at that time. One obviously is the tab thing that you guys are seeing nowadays. But the other thing that was back then very popular was the windows within windows. Let's say you have a listing, you double click, it actually pop up another window within a bigger window. So we actually kind of like user tested, but like looking at how good at that point, Chrome was doing because of the tab interface, or Firefox back then because of the tab interface, we decided to go with that. So I'll say like the functional piece, but the outer frame kind of like goes hand in hand. You have the outer frame of the design. I guess in music, you kind of like have the structure where you have the beginning intro, and then you have the chorus. Sorry, I'm not educated in music at all, as you can tell. You kind of like a lot of songs have like a very similar structure, right? A beginning, a repeated chorus, and stuff. It's kind of like the same for the software, right? You have an outer frame, you need a menu, you have a list, you have detail screen, what we call like, for example, the product detail screen, and even within the sales order right now, you have the different flow within a sales process. So a subtab kind of makes sense. So if you start with kind of like the outer core frame, and then you build out the pieces in the middle, and you try to establish a pattern. For example, if you look at a list of sales order and a list of purchase order, they are very similar because it uses the same listing style, right? So I guess similar to music, at the repeating point, it kind of repeats. Sorry, I'm trying to like relate to music, but I'm totally not educated in music. But that's kind of like the rough process of how we came up with the user interface.
I think you handled that well. So good job on that one.
If I could add a bit to that. So I'd say generally the function kind of comes before the form. So we try to start, because we're working with inventory. Unlike most software, we kind of start with the physical, right? Like, what is somebody who's going around the warehouse and doing this function, be it picking or receiving or counting, need to do? What are kind of the recommended best practices by kind of inventory management operations experts? And then how can we make that be sort of compatible with the digital side of what we're doing. And as many of you know, barcode scanning was a big piece of that.
Yeah.
At a more nuanced level, like there's a lot of back and forth. So I imagine, again, I've never composed anything, but if you're writing a song and then you've got these killer lyrics that you want to put in, but it just doesn't fit, say, the rhythm of the song, you might modify the song a little bit to make that work. And we do that as well. So like, yeah, for example, if we have an idea for a function that, you know, a feature that has been requested, but we just can't find a good way to present it, like we can't find the lyrics that just are as good as they need to be, then occasionally, if it's not like a really core piece of it, we might cut that little nicety if it's going to add too much in terms of the complexity that shows up in the system.
Yeah, and it's interesting how Stephen mentioned about how we integrate the physical world with the digital software world. Like, I can't imagine back in the days when we only have on-premise desktop, how people needed to carry their laptop and hook it up with like a hard scanner and walk with a trolley. So they will have a trolley in the warehouse with a laptop and then have a hardware scanner to scan in the product. And nowadays, everyone uses the mobile phone to scan it, and that just runs absolutely super smooth, right? So we thought about how will people kind of like walk around the warehouse and the office when doing stuff. And that goes to not just, you know, scanning things and picking items for the orders, but even things like printing the label, right? Now you can actually, eventually you will need, like you can print the barcode label from your mobile phone. So how do people like walk around in the warehouse and work seamlessly and not just like sitting in front of a desk staring at a screen doing software? And that is actually a core part of our process too.
Yeah, just sorry. I want to add one more. I'll shut up after this. That's one of the things that really motivated us to get to cloud, was because some of the feedback we were hearing was that the way people were using inFlow was like, it's like bookkeeping after the fact. So you go and you do the thing you need to do, which might be doing some assembly or moving things around in the warehouse. And then you have to walk over to the office where the computer is and then type in what you just did. And, you know, that was sort of a key insight into, we need to make this work so that the software helps you with what you need to do. So whoever's, I think, used our mobile picking functionality, hopefully you're feeling that, like where it's not a chore you do after the task. You bring up your phone, it shows you here's exactly what you need to pick and where to go in order to do that. And then the barcode scanning makes it easy.
Awesome. So we are around 12. We have a couple questions left if you guys are okay for a few extra minutes. I just want to make sure you don't need to. Yep. Cool. So actually kind of talking about the smart scanner, this one was interesting, but from Sean was saying that if it's possible that maybe in a future version of the smart scanner that we could actually get a slightly better camera on it. He's saying that we use the scanner for our deliveries and inspection of items in the warehouse. We need detailed pictures for some of the items, and the smart scanner's camera isn't good enough for detailed images. So yeah, I mean, kind of a little bit of feedback, but I thought that was also interesting, kind of just to point out, I guess, as well.
Thanks for the feedback, Sean. We'll pass that on. We are constantly looking at at the hardware as well. So we'll take that into consideration.
Yeah, and I just want to say, we always try to source the best hardware. You know, obviously being a 50 people company, we don't make our own hardware, right? But the hardware that we source we try to look for the best stuff first and then work our software around it and not the other way around. So, but just so you know, for a lot of these hardware that are in a warehouse, that is form fitted for warehouse because it needs to be rugged, it needs to be like drop proof and everything. It will always lag behind consumer grade. Like it will always lag behind like the latest iPhone, right? Because that's just the way it is. They need to like, because after the new iPhone or new Android latest consumer device came out, then their engineers need to work in the actual laser scanner and things inside the latest consumer grade stuff, right? So it will never be as good as kind of like consumer grade top line tech, but it will be very close followed. And we always pick the best that's available.
Awesome. And yeah, you wouldn't want to carry around your brand new $2,000 iPhone, whatever, and drop it in the warehouse and have that smash. Whereas at least the nice durable hardware pieces that we have and stuff can handle all that, right? So, yeah, kind of two questions. These ones kind of go hand in hand about manufacturing. James had asked, would you be willing to give us a timeline by quarter, for example, for the release of manufacturing enhancements, with a cheeky little smile in there? So I think that's kind of like a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Come on, if you can give a little something. And Evangelos also had said, can you expand a little in what you were planning for manufacturing? BOM versioning is an absolute priority for them. I will also mention, I did notice Yoon, actually one of our project managers, jumped into the chat there and was saying that she's going to be heading out to a trade show we're going to, I believe, next week. I think it's really soon. And we're going to be showing off some of the manufacturing stuff there. She did also put her email there that she can talk about some of the manufacturing stuff as well. But yeah, if either of you guys, sorry, I'll let you. I will stop talking. It's your show.
Yeah. So, would we be willing to give a timeline on manufacturing, James? I'm sorry, no. But what I'm willing to give you is some reasons why, and maybe a bit of a teaser. So, a bit of a teaser at that East Tech conference. Yoon will be sort of showing, little sort of sneak peek of what we have coming to get some feedback from there. So. Yeah, I'm not sure if she's willing to share that more broadly as well, but Sheep has her email in the chat, and maybe Noria will put a copy of that there as well. But the reason why we don't generally give timelines, one, we're not a very sort of timeline or deadline-driven company. With software, you're doing something for the first time pretty much every time. So it's not the kind of thing where you can reliably make an estimate. And even if you do try to make that estimate, you're in my experience, you're wasting a lot of time, like really trying to get an accurate estimate. You're padding it. You're playing all these games that we just don't want to spend too much time and energy playing. Obviously, we loosely have some internal, very rough estimates, but we generally do not share them. I'm sorry, because we know they're very inaccurate, and it's just not something that's helpful. So we focus on sort of getting it right. Obviously, we try to get it done as quickly as possible as well. But yeah, it's something we are working on, but we don't share those because we don't have a lot of emphasis in-house, and we also are the kind of company, we don't want to overpromise things. I don't want to tell you it's coming out tomorrow, and it doesn't come out tomorrow.
I guess, even though nowadays I do on the business side, but back then, I was a full-fledged programmer that programmed full versions. So I guess in programming, it's kind of like, unless you start doing it, you don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes. And especially for projects that are more ambiguous. For example, like manufacturing, we're doing it brand new with a fresh take on it for the web app. So it's not like we're just straight up copy and pasting the desktop app into it. So when the degree of ambiguity is big, it's really hard to predict until you dig deep into the code, the use case, and everything. And if you arbitrarily set a timeline, like if we just say, okay, let's finish this in 3 months. If you force that, then, but in actuality, it's actually more complicated and takes more than 3 months, because when they start digging, they find a lot of stuff. Then you either, at that point, while you promise your customers that it will be 3 months, then what do? For other companies, they'll cut corners, right? So we don't want to do that. We always want to give you guys the best stuff. It's ready when it's ready. So that's why we're very hesitant in giving even rough estimate, because we want to produce the best stuff and not cut corners just to make some timeline that, Stephen and I say, right? So we have a lot of trust in our team, but I'm sure every one of us are working really hard on making things happen for you.
Yeah, and then in terms of roadmap, we generally plan loosely about 6 months or so in advance. Like, we haven't spelled out exactly what next year's enhancements may be, because things change, right? Like, as we release the upcoming web manufacturing with the operations, I expect that the feedback that we get there is going to be somewhat different than some of what we have today. So a lot of these questions, DOM versioning, for example, again, lots of things that we want to do, and we'll sort of like make the decisions closer to when, based on the most input we can get, which is usually, 6-ish months before we need to start the real development.
Yeah. And also, just because we mentioned like things like manufacturing and mobile cam sheet and web parity, that type of thing, those are like bigger items. At the same time, because we have a few teams that are also working on other stuff along the way, right? So it's not like we only do one thing and then that's the only thing that we do. There are also other things that are going on concurrently, and some of those items are, it might be smaller in scale, but it's based on the feedback that you guys gave.
Sure. And with any of those big things, there's always bound to be bugs that we can't catch and everything. So we always got to make sure we have people working on those things too, right? So, it's great to hear because we can't dedicate everybody into kind of just one thing at a time. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to pivot fast enough as well and everything too. So, thank you. That's really, really awesome, guys. Yeah, sorry. I saw Nuria just posted in the chat. Basaratha, I saw, was asking a few times kind of about the speed of how fast labels print out. That may be something that we can try and help with that if you reach out to us on the support team. I'm not sure. I guess it depends on what the expectations and stuff are too. So definitely reach out to us. We will definitely try and go over that with you. I think kind of the last big question that I had on here, at least on the list right now, was about showroom customization, asking about additional showroom customization, like adding a functional website link or an option for the customer to select a location to place an order from. What do you guys think of that?
Thank you, Luz, for, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but appreciate the feedback there. No immediate plans right now, but again, please keep the feedback coming. And it'll go into the systems. We will read that. I can certainly see the needs on both of those particular requests. No immediate plans right now.
Awesome. And then just to kind of highlight it out there, I do see we had kind of a few compliments in there, so I'll read these out quickly, and then we do have a giveaway that we're doing, so everybody, thank you for sticking with us and stuff like that. We'll get to that in just a minute. So I saw Sean here had written, I do have to say, I've been working with you guys on and off since 2014, I believe, and what you have done over the years is night and day difference, especially bringing the web app online and adding the showroom have been huge improvements along the way. So there you go. Some nice compliments.
Thank you, Sean.
There from you.
And I just want to mention, since Luz also mentioned about showroom is actually one of the pieces where, when I mentioned like looking forward into the future, showroom is actually one of the pieces that we don't get a lot of feedback from customer, but we think that will actually help you guys a lot, even though not a lot of people ask for it. So that's kind of like shows that we try to keep innovating on things that we think it will help you guys a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And it kind of goes to show, like, I mean, I think even like inFlow Pay was something that you kind of had the idea when you were seeing like COVID and a lot of like online shopping and stuff like that. That was something you kind of pivoted and wanted to add to make things better for everyone, kind of thing. So
I guess like especially during COVID time, we know like a lot of you guys got hit hard, and like we totally feel the pain. I personally know a few entrepreneur friends who, their business went out of business. Like, they were a wholesaler selling jewelry, and they were doing very well before COVID, and then COVID hits, and then that person broke down in front of me, and I totally feel you guys, right? Like, because we're a small business also, we're not like some big faceless ginormous conglomerate, right? So what you guys are going through and your feedback and support is like super important to us.
Awesome. A couple other ones here we had from Donald. Thank you for providing an incredible product. As well, Robin had said you have an amazing support over the years. Kudos to your team. So I'll give myself a little pat on the back for a couple of years in that included at least. But
Phil has been a big part of that. Yeah.
well, I can't imagine you guys back when you first launched. I mean, you guys were support, development, you were everything, right? So that would have been would have been crazy.
Yeah, and I just want to also take this opportunity. Like we thank the community a lot, but also want to take this opportunity to thank our team because like they are amazing, right? Steven and I just kind of like do our high level stuff sometimes and join meeting, but for example, people like Phil, Nuria, like they were actually the ones who are helping you on a daily basis. They were actually the ones who are doing a lot of like the hard work. So just want to take this opportunity to thank our team also, and thank you for like the community, like Sean, Peter, a lot of people who are with us today. Like you guys are very patient with us and patient with our team, and our team always have like good things to say about you guys, and you guys have good things to say about our team. And I think that just create like a positive cycle, right? Because like nowadays in the world, like there are way too much negativity, but you guys have always been like very patient with us, very helpful, and our team love you guys and you guys love our team, and like this whole positive cycle is just amazing. So thank you everyone for making that happen.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I get to see some other comments coming in and everything saying, Astrid was saying, we love the showroom. That was what helped them decide to go with the company. Bastarath said that showroom was one of the best things that happened in Flow, but he would also like a way to add Unite price to the showroom. Sean was also saying showroom is great. As a delivery company, they use it to give to our interior designers access to their inventory. So thank you guys for that. So there you go. It sounds like you guys were able to kind of pick the right direction and everything, and positivity all around, which is fantastic. Thank you. And again, thank you everyone for coming and joining us. I do believe that is the end of most of the questions. And yeah, just kind of give all of you a big thank you for not only coming today, for supporting us, for again meeting Stephen and Louis. I don't know if either of you have anything you'd like to say before we close out. Thank you to both of you two actually for taking the time to come and answer these questions and spend the time with us. So.
Yeah, thanks so much for everyone for organizing us well, Phil. Yeah, neither of us are natural people in front of the camera, so appreciate you making it so easy, and appreciate all the support from the community. Like you guys have been so awesome, like today and over the years.
Yeah, and also like it just brings me back to the days like nowadays Steven and I don't get a chance to talk to a lot of you directly nowadays. But back then, like me and Stephen were like picking up phone calls, right? That's how when we started, we'll talk to you guys directly and stuff. And from time to time, like right now, we still like read your email, read your comments. But there's like a great opportunity to be interfacing with all of you today, and we really treasure you. We don't take things for granted, and just want to thank you for your support all these years.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, and thank you everyone. And as well, again, you can check out any of our socials, both Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Again, we will be having some fun, more behind the scenes kind of things coming there soon. And yeah, so just again, a very big thank you everyone for joining, and we will talk to you all again. And again, anyone else with questions or feedback, send them to support@inflowinventory.com. We are happy to get them all. And yeah, thank you all, and have a great rest of the day. Bye.